Welcome to the Cocktails at Home class, episode 10. And this is Cinco de Mayo. So we're making a couple of cocktails that either have Mexican ingredients or a Mexican history. As always, please do not hesitate to ask any questions, anything that you can think of. We'll also have the chat box open if you prefer to ask a question in there. That will also be an option for you. All right, and we also have some food pairings. If you decided to pick them, the pairings are listed on the bottom of your recipe sheet. I did a little differently this time for that. I figured there was no way to really confuse these items, so we didn't necessarily need to put a sticker on every one. But our first cocktail today is going to be the Paloma. So let's go through our equipment set. By the way, if you have any questions about the equipment that you have, if you need to make a substitution, please let me know. I'll help you work through that. But we're going to need a jigger, our shaker set. I'm using a Boston style shaker. We're going to need a Hawthorne strainer, a mesh strainer if you would like, and then a glass to put it in. For these carbonated cocktails, I do usually prefer a taller smallmouth glass so that your carbonation doesn't have anywhere to escape to. If you're using a wider mouth, the more surface area that is open, the more carbonation leaves the cocktail. So anytime there's carbonation, you want to use a smaller mouth vessel. For our ingredients, it is going to be tequila. This tequila is a reposado tequila, so there's a little bit of age on this cocktail, or on this tequila. We have some agave, grapefruit and lime juice. Now the grapefruit juice you will be using in 2 cocktails, so make sure you do not use it all. There's a question if you don't have a grater for the nutmeg, that is in for the horchata. If you don't have a microplane, any type of cheese grater would work. As small, like as fine of a grater as you can. You could put it in a spice grinder, but at that case, you're going to be grinding up the entire nutmeg, which is much more than we will need today. That, I think, are my best 2 options. That's correct. The lime juice is all you need is only for 2 drinks. The grapefruit juice you only need for 1. Grapefruit juice is only the Paloma. The lime juice we'll be using again with the last Oaxacan. And then you have a can of soda as well. I had to hide mine, otherwise my children would have drank it on me. So this is where we can sort of kind of go in a couple different paths with the Paloma. This is just Wegmans brand grapefruit soda. It's the clear kind, flavorful, but not really a sugar added. The more traditional way to make this cocktail is to use a sweeter, more fruit-forward grapefruit, essentially grapefruit juice soda. And my Spanish is not great, so I'm going to be butchering Spanish words all night. Doritos is the brand that is, I think, the best for this. Wegmans does have a couple of them. They just do not have grapefruit, so you can try it. I do actually, if you don't venture down the different sort of international sections of the supermarket, you are missing out. We'll talk more about it when we get to the horchata and the cinnamon for that. But in that section, you'll see a couple different styles of fruit sodas. The grapefruit one is the traditional way to do it. If you go with the traditional way of using a sweetened soda, you do not need the sweetener or the grapefruit juice or really the soda. It's really just tequila, lime juice, grapefruit soda. So we had to add a couple of ingredients to make up for the missing soda. But with that said, let's switch over here, and there we go. It's working. All right. All right, so let's get to making our first cocktail. As always, we're going to start from the bottom up. That way, if you make a mistake, we are not going to be throwing out our expensive tequila. We're going to start off with, by the way, one other thing, the recipe. If you look on the right-hand side, that column there, that recipe is for 1 drink. On the left-hand side, the ingredients you have in your kit is for 2 drinks. So if you're making this just for 1, you're just going to be, that's also the recipe that I'm going to be saying when I'm talking about it. If you're making it for 2, you just want to double it. But for 1 recipe, it's going to be 1/4 ounce of lime juice, 3/4 ounce of grapefruit juice, 3/4 ounce of agave. This agave simple syrup is a 1-to-1 agave nectar and warm water mixture. It doesn't need to be brought to a boil. And then we're going to be doing 1.5 ounces of the Reposado tequila. I chose Reposado just to do something a little different. I don't think every Reposado tequila would work. I wanted something that was heavy vanilla. So we're using Espolón here. Casamigos would also work. I think that is also a heavy vanilla Reposado tequila. But you don't want something that is not going to give you that vanilla flavor. It just isn't going to mix well with the sort of the grapefruit note. That's all the ingredients we need to add right now. We're going to leave the grapefruit soda off to the side. We're just going to top the drink with that. So at this point, we're going to be adding ice to our glass and ice to our shaker. And when you ice down your cocktail, you want to make sure that you are putting more ice in there than there is liquid. So you don't want to go light on the ice. You want to make sure you're putting enough in there that it's covering the level of the liquid. Seal our shaker. And then when we shake, we're going to be shaking parallel to the ground. So grab our strainer. And you could pour this straight through the mesh strainer as well. That depends on your preference. At this point, the mesh strainer is just to get out any pulp left over from the grapefruit juice or the lime juice. Set that off to the side. And then our top here is just going to be some grapefruit soda. Sort of have our spoon ready. I just want to have my spoon in here before I put the soda in so I can just give it a little bit of agitation once the soda is in there. You don't want to be stirring it up too much. It's just a little bit of agitation just to get the juice and cocktail from the bottom up to the top. It's also because I don't like using straws. It's weird. And that is our Paloma. Cheers, everyone. So it's a little on the sweeter side. This is definitely a summer cocktail. Let's see. Do you keep the agave refrigerated? Agave nectar by itself, you do not have to keep refrigerated. That it can be left in the same place you would keep your maple syrup or your honey. Once you make a simple syrup out of it, though, then you would want to keep it refrigerated. They say like 7 days for that. It's probably good longer than that, but you really don't want to make it and let it sit too long in the fridge. What kind of tequila is this? You have Espolón. I did try Tremana in hopes that we could use it for this one. Found it wasn't as vanilla, but still delicious Reposado tequila. That's actually the rocks tequila. I had it for the first time. I thought it was pretty good. And then we have a couple of food dishes today. Let's see. I think probably with this one, the fruit salad, I think, is probably the best pairing to have with this cocktail. It's a Mexican fruit salad with spiced melon, pineapple, orange, apple, and red onion. And this is from Chef Sean at White Dog Cafe in Haverford. All right. Anyone have any issues with that? We're all caught up. Everyone's good. This is meant to be a summer drink, meant to be really light, refreshing, a touch on the sweeter side, but enough acid there to cut it. Grapefruit juice is an ingredient that I am passionate about. I really hate the sort of tan grapefruit juice you buy. I am partial to either pink or ruby red grapefruit juice. I think just the brightness that you get from that versus the sort of the dull bitterness from a tan grapefruit juice is just completely different. There is a little bit of salt there. You can also, this is a cocktail that if you wanted to salt the rim, you could do that. One other thing I really like to kind of talk about when we talk about grapefruit juice and salt as ingredients, you have we have one person that's having an issue getting in. Pardon me. Let me send them a quick invite. What I was mentioning was with grapefruit juice, if you enjoy like a half grapefruit with a bit of sugar on top of it, one thing you could do is substitute a little bit of salt for that sugar on top of it, and you'll find that it actually brightens the grapefruit juice a little bit more. Let's see. Pardon me for just a second, just. There we go. Excuse me. So you could add a little bit of salt to this. You could salt the rim if you'd like. I am partial. I hate doing rims. It's just weird. I know. I have these little quirks that I can't ever get rid of. One of them is not liking rims on cocktails. But if you do like this sort of thing, this is a cocktail that would be nice with a little salt rim. There was a question, could you use any tequila for this? This cocktail would be perfectly fine with the Blanco tequila. When you get into aged tequilas, you do get different notes with each one. I was partial to a tequila that had heavy vanilla notes. If you get something that is a little bit more woody or nutty, it may not blend as well with the grapefruit. You can certainly try it though, nothing wrong with that. But I would steer towards either a Blanco or a heavy vanilla, heavy spice aged tequila. When you're talking about aged tequila, typically a Blanco tequila is aged up to 2 months. 2 months to up to a year is a reposado tequila, and then 1 year to up to 3 years is a añejo tequila. Anything aged longer than that is an extra añejo. Usually you aren't using añejo tequilas for cocktails. That is mostly Blanco or reposado. If you did an añejo tequila, if you wanted to use that for a cocktail, I would save it for maybe like a old-fashioned riff or something like that, where you're really just tweaking the base spirit instead of using it in a cocktail that has a lot of added flavors like this. You don't necessarily need an añejo tequila for this type of cocktail. I know we had someone that had issues coming in. If you want to hang out later, I'm happy to catch you up.
Like just a splash?
So sorry about that. But if you do want to catch up at the end, I'm happy to help out with the cocktail that you missed. So second cocktail on the list is going to be the horchata. If you need a second to rinse out your shaker, your strainer, do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to make horchata. Let's first get our equipment and ingredients ready. So we're going to need the same jigger. You don't really need a shaker. For this one, it's really just going to be kind of stirring it together. We will have our shaker here, but it's more just as something to bring the ingredients together versus needing to actually shake this cocktail. Need a strainer and our mesh strainer again, and then you do not need a skewer. That's a typo. You need a microplane there. So apologies on that typo. Grab my microplane. And that will be used with the nutmeg. So every kit had a whole piece of nutmeg in it. You have way more than you need. I encourage you to use the nutmeg in baking if you haven't, or in cooking. It is an ingredient that if you have been typically using ground nutmeg, once you use fresh nutmeg, you will not go back. I say that pretty confidently. For this cocktail, I'm using a rocks glass. You could use really any glass for this one. You do want it to be something that you can use ice though. This cocktail is better served over ice. Next, we have the horchata here. This is ready to drink. You can drink this just cold, non-alcoholic version. There is some sediment in the bottom. You can shake this, or you can just have it without. You don't necessarily need to shake it. It is plenty flavorful without shaking it. If you do shake it, you will get a little bit more flavor. There will also be a little bit more to it. You will kind of taste some of the kind of bits that are in here. For the process of making it, what you do is you take rice. Any long grain rice will work. I actually messed around with using basmati and jasmine and whole grain, long grain white rice, and you really can't taste the difference. The recipes that you'll find say that you can use water and just let the rice steep. We used a combination of almond milk and water. By the way, so there is almonds in this if there's any people that have nut allergies. It is almond milk, about, it's called 3-to-1 of your liquid to your rice. So 6 cups of liquid to say 2 cups of rice. What you do is you put the rice in completely dry, let it sit with that liquid, ideally for 24 hours. With that, and then a stick of cinnamon. The cinnamon that you want to use for this recipe is Ceylon cinnamon. So if you're unfamiliar with cinnamon, you have 2 main types of cinnamon. The cinnamon that you usually see at the store is actually cassia. It is cheaper and it is more flavorful, more pungent. So for the most part, you're going to see cassia at the store, C-A-S-S-I-A. It is the bark is, and the sticks are a little bit more brittle, and the flavor is more sort of like punch in the face, loud, versus if you had Ceylon cinnamon, C-E-Y-L-O-N, which is sort of lighter and more floral. It's also a little bit softer and easier to break. So for this recipe, we ground up the cinnamon with the rice. So you have whole sticks of cinnamon that were ground into the horchata. What I was mentioning before, if you kind of go into your normal spice section of your supermarket and you pick up the cinnamon stick along with right next to where the paprika is, you probably have about 3 or 4 sticks for $8, something like that, $6. If you go into the Latin food section, you can find a gigantic jar of cannella cinnamon for the same $8. So explore that aisle of your supermarket, check it out. You can find some really nice ingredients that are a little different, but fantastic to use. So with this one, we use the Canela cinnamon. And like I said, it's 3-to-1 liquid to rice, stick of cinnamon. You let that sit for a day, and then you're gonna blend it in your blender so you get it as smooth as possible. And then you can pour it through as fine of mesh strainer as you can, or cheesecloth. A nut bag probably is not going to give you as much of a strain as you would like. So I would stick more towards either cheesecloth or fine mesh strainer. This is also called like an Agua Fresca. So it's meant to be chilled, refreshing, and really not too many ingredients. So again, almond milk, water, cinnamon, and rice. We're going to be serving that with rum. This rum is a rum agricole, which means that it is made from sugarcane instead of molasses. Can you buy commercially? You probably could. Yeah, you certainly could find prepared horchata if you'd like. So with this one, not too many ingredients. So it's just going to be 1.5 ounces of our rum and 4 ounces of the horchata. So half of this bottle as well. We're going to put those together in our the mixing glass. And we're just stirring it together. What kind of rum is it? This is rum barbancourt, and the type of rum is rum agricole. And you'll also see it spelled R-H-U-M. And you just get, I find you get a little bit more and a little bit of a cleaner rum flavor with it as compared to sort of another just aged rum. So with this, we're just using this to bring it together, and then we're going to pour it over ice. I think of all the cocktails I've made, this is the one where our kitchen guys really kind of got involved and got excited helping me make this one. Mostly because I think they wanted some leftovers. There's our horchata. And we're just going to garnish that with just a little bit of grated nutmeg on top. You could also, if you wanted to do a little bit of cinnamon on top, you certainly could do that. That actually might be the best solution for somebody that doesn't have a microplane. If you have ground cinnamon, just use that instead. There are some sweeteners already added. He used, I think, evaporated milk and sweetened condensed milk as the sweeteners here. Depending on, if you're making this at home, depending on the almond milk that you choose, some of them are sweeter than others. That may affect how you make it. If you're looking for a recipe, I'm happy to send one out for the horchata. How far in advance can you make it? You can make it at least a couple days. I think this is one of those ingredients where a day or two after is probably in its prime. I wouldn't go further than 3 or 4 though. Pardon me 1 second. All right. Favorite one of the night. Awesome. There are some variations that you can do with coconut. I did kind of think for a few minutes about using a coconut tequila. I think would have gone well here. There was one mention of the Puerto Rican eggnog. Oh, what is that called? I can't think of it right now. It's drowning my brain. Puerto Rican eggnog.
Me too. I'm blanking on what you call it. I make it every year.
Hold on. It'll come to me in just a second.
Me
Or I can
too.
Google it, or I can think of, or I can just let it bother me for a minute.
It's coconut milk,
Mm-hmm.
condensed milk, lots of cinnamon, and rum, of course.
I can't think of it either. It's gonna bother me. Just give up. Coquito, thank you. That's what it is.
Coquito.
That's exactly. It's very similar. And the nutmeg is on top is just meant to give you an aromatic pop right at the end. But not super alcoholic, not knocking you over with the rum, but just sort of there and lingers. We did make a coquito. We made a coquito. Was that holiday? That might have been the first class we did holiday cocktails. That would have been like early January, late December.
Yeah, I think it was.
And that was, we did a coquito with that one. I used the sweetened condensed coconut milk where you cook that to like dulce de leche thing.
Yeah.
With this as a food pairing, there is a black bean hummus that has some on top of a queso fresco and pepitas, and you have some crispy tortilla chips as well as the pairing for this. If you'd like to take a second. All right. All right, everyone's good with this one. Any questions about this one so far? Before I forget, let me I'll put my email address in here if anybody is interested in the recipe for the horchata itself. Or for that matter, a coquito recipe. I'm happy to share that also. All right, let's take a second and just sort of clean off your shaker. Our last cocktail of the night is not necessarily a Mexican cocktail. It is a Mexican ingredient though, and my favorite riff with this ingredient. The last cocktail of the night is going to be a cocktail called the Last Oaxacan. It is a play on a cocktail called the Last Word. The Last Word usually is a gin base. We're going to be using Mezcal tonight. So I know we've done Mezcal a couple times. This is the first time we're really using it as a full base. Other times we've had the option of cutting it with other ingredients. This time we have 4 really flavorful ingredients, and I think it will balance out the Mezcal enough that even if you're a little hesitant on it, you will still be all right. All right. So just a little bit about Mezcal before we get started here. I feel like I'll give you a second to catch up a little bit, enjoy the cocktails. So with Mezcal, you have sort of all tequila is Mezcal, but for the most part, Mezcal speaks to a specific production style. There are a few differences in tequila production and Mezcal production. Tequila is made in Jalisco, which is on the southwest side, and is only about able to be made there and sort of the 4 surrounding regions. Mezcal is centered around Oaxaca, which is further south and east in Mexico. What you get with an agave plant, they take about 6 or 7 years to come to maturity. After they come to maturity and they are harvested, you're going to cut off all the leaves and get what's called a piña. They are about 40 pounds, and what they do then is cut them in half. And when they cut them in half, well then for tequila production, they're going to cook them and take the juice from the piñas to use to make tequila. With Mezcal production, instead of cooking it, say, in an oven, you're going to cook it underground and covered, so that the smoke that is produced does not have anywhere to escape to. The smoke is then kept with the piñas, and then in turn, the juice that comes after you crush the piñas and then distill for Mezcal. Excuse me. So with Mezcal, you get a bit of smokiness with it. I really like that aspect of it, but it's a little bit different and not for everybody. This is Del Maguey, the Vita option from Del Maguey. I found that really in the last 6 months or so, the PLCB and the state stores have gotten a lot better with the Mezcal that they have on the shelves. I think I have. This is the Del Maguey bottle. And this is another one I really like, Oaxaca. They are both much more reasonable in price than they have been. You usually would find Mezcals at the state store for about $50. These are now around $35. So it's becoming more mainstream, more commonplace, and in turn, they're getting some really nice varieties. They're better values. In addition to Mezcal in this, you have green Chartreuse, another really pungent ingredient. Green Chartreuse has been around for, let's say, a couple hundred years. It was made by the, my French is not great either. I'm really just okay at English. Chartreusian monks started to make it, and it is a herbal liqueur, a little bit higher in alcohol, really flavorful though. I urge you to sort of branch out and try these ingredients, because I think they are eye-opening to what is out there in the realm of liquor and cocktails. There are a couple of different varieties of Chartreuse you see. This is green Chartreuse. You will also see yellow Chartreuse. Yellow Chartreuse is a little bit sweeter and a little bit lower in alcohol. Just a different variety. And then lastly, you have, for alcoholic ingredients, you have maraschino. This is Fratelli Vergnamo. What you would normally see at the store is Luxardo. Luxardo is delicious. I just prefer Fratelli to Luxardo, but you can definitely see Luxardo at the store. That's the green bottle with like a straw wrapping around it and a red cap. That is, I think, probably the only maraschino at the stores. And then lastly, we're using lime juice for this cocktail. All right. As far as equipment goes, we have the same jigger, shaker set. I'm going to be using a coupe glass. You can also use a martini glass. You can use anything you'd like. I am not going to be pouring this one over ice though. This to me is a sipping cocktail, and I don't really want to dilute it that much. If I was going to use ice, I would try to use a large ice cube that is going to slow down any dilution. So if we're all set, we switch to the cocktail making camera. This still works. Ah, good. And we'll make our last cocktail. All right, so when we start at the end, we're gonna start with our lime juice. And this recipe is really easy. It's equal parts of all 4 ingredients. So it's gonna be 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice, 3/4 of an ounce of maraschino. And it's really kind of, if you look at it, you're getting something from each of the ingredients. You're getting acidity from our lime juice. You're getting some sweetness from the maraschino. You're getting some herbal notes from the green chartreuse, 3/4 of an ounce, by the way. And then some smoky notes from our base spirit here, the mezcal. And then from here, we are going to shake this one. Anytime there is a citrus juice, you want to be shaking your cocktail. I'm not one that needs a completely chilled coupe glass. You can if you'd like, but I do find that it kind of dulls the flavor sometimes, so I don't need this glass to be ice cold as well. We're just going to do our shaking in the glass and then strain from there. So let's grab some ice. All right. Now, I do like using a mesh strainer here. If I'm drinking a cocktail without ice, I don't really want ice chips in there. Again, I know that's a weird thing. Some people like the ice chips, but my preference would be without. Okay. And then our garnish is just going to be a amaranth and cherry on a skewer. I lose my man, it's so close. Right to the end. There we go. It's an amaranth and cherry. Amaranth and cherries are a little different. It has a little bit of like a tangy sweetness to it. I prefer amaranth and cherries to a maraschino cherry. I think that maraschino cherries are candy and should not be used in cocktails. They are really just meant for Shirley Temples. I'm really just kind of giving all of my weird cocktail quirks, aren't I, tonight?
Don't hold back, Len. Don't hold back.
Cheers, everyone. Is the ABV on Mezcal? It is. For the most part, Mezcal and tequilas are going to be over 80 and somewhere in that range. Let me see what. 42%, so 84 proof on that one. I'd be surprised if it's too much different here. This is 80 proof on the Oaxaca. So really right in that range. I don't often see high proof tequilas. Dirty Shirley, sure. If you want, I don't have any maraschino cherries in here. I actually look for excuses to have the arborina cherries. You get sort of like that smoky note, the herbal note from the chartreuse, and the sweetness from the maraschino, and the lime juice cuts it just right. So this is a cocktail I really enjoy. I think it's really nice also with the gin. If you want to go with the more traditional route, that's perfectly okay as well. Lastly, you have a cheese pairing, and this is Hootenanny from Goat Rodeo Dairy and Farm and Dairy, and that's just outside of Pittsburgh, I believe. This is a goat's milk Gouda cheese, and it's served with a sweet and spicy chili jam and fried saltines. I would not every piece has the rind, but you don't necessarily want to eat the rind on it. It's not bad if you did eat it. It's not a big deal. It's just wax, but you don't necessarily want to eat it if you did get a piece with the rind, and that is completely normal for Gouda. Thank you all. I appreciate you hanging out. We've trimmed down to a nice group of 5 or so. We'll see you all again sometime in June. We'll send out an email as soon as we know when it is, and we'll save the date. But I'm thinking sort of middle-ish June once we get through the graduation rushes. So we will see you all again then.